Today's message is based upon what is called an acrostic, which is a word where other words are born out of the letters of that word, or questions in this case today. And if any of you were here in February 4th, I conducted a seminar workshop and used an acrostic where everybody used their first name and wrote out words that represented their way of being in life. And I thought that was a beautiful way to get to know each other a little bit. The word today, think, is a word that is all about mindfulness. And mindfulness is about conscious spirituality. In much of the world, there is, in Christianity anyway, there is an emphasis on what might be called the distinction between Pauline Christianity. The early church adopted a lot of the Apostle Paul's way of seeing a relationship with the Christ through faith. Because he, on the road to Damascus, he had set out as a Pharisee and as a Roman citizen to persecute this new sect. And he had a white light experience, which he thought of as grace. Well, grace is a very powerful element within our spirituality because we can only go so far with our thinking. But on the other end of that spectrum of just having a life of faith and belief is the other spectrum of Gnosticism. Gnosticism was a parallel, and is a parallel, way of perceiving spirituality through knowing, through self-knowing. And that is the means of living a life of freedom versus a life of bondage. Because even if we have faith, we still have issues. And we probably always will. As people, as spiritual beings in the body, we will always have things that we're working on. But my direct experience has always been that even if I'm troubled or I'm in the valley of the shadow of death, a death of a part of myself, that I should fear no evil, for this shall pass away. Through a cultivation of what I have called in the past enlightened awareness, knowing, through prayer and meditation and service to other people, we allow breakthrough, even in the context of a breakdown of a previous way of life. So I wouldn't say that unity itself is a Gnostic tradition, but it has strong leanings in that way because the emphasis is on self-understanding and a letting go of erroneous thinking of our relationship with our Creator. We let go of this belief of sin, which I call self-induced nonsense. Sin is the state of separation from our God, and that is a state of suffering. And as we progress within the teachings, with allowing these teachings to have their home in us, and to enliven us, and to be what it is that we are as truth students, we become self-aware. We become co-creators with God. In the book of Psalms, it says, "Ye are gods." I'm actually quite surprised that that was kept in the Bible. But the Bible is a roadmap for the soul. So everything that we think we are that is erroneous belief is up for healing. It's up for clearing so that we may be gods in a way. Not to say, I am God, but I am aligned with God. And I allow myself to be an instrument of the power and the presence that is God, and that everything else is up for healing. And so this acrostic today, in using the word think, is a powerful mechanism, in a way, for us to take a look at that. So let's do so. T stands for, is it true? Now, in our own lives, we have our truths, right? Everyone has their truths that they stand upon that said, this is what my truth is. Well, I don't want to interfere with that whatsoever. You've worked hard to stand on a certain place that says, these are my values, these are my truths, this is what I'm about. That's good. That shows an individuality of strength for your own life experience. But that's what I would call truth with a small t. Truth with a capital T is the truth that we talk about in unity tradition as the truth of being. How God sees us. Now, how can I dare presume to know how God sees us? Well, through the teachings. We are blessed. We are beloved. We are in the process of waking up. That's what the teachings are showing us. Waking up into an alignment with a divine image that is held within God mind as the truth of being, and that we suffer from an inadequate self-understanding. And when we align ourselves with the truth of being, all that is false falls away in due process. It is a lifelong endeavor. So, our actions, not only our concept of God as what God thinks of us, but our actions, moment to moment, week by week, month by month, year by year, we become that which we seek. We are already what we're seeking. It's just Charles Fillmore called it releasing the imprisoned splendor. Why is it imprisoned? Well, maybe it's just because it's our curriculum in this lifetime. There's nothing wrong here, as I have said many times. It feels sometimes like there's something wrong, that we have done something wrong. But it's really not. It's like it's our curriculum of waking up. And that's why we're here today. Gnostic spirituality is about self-knowledge and about waking up. There was a woman named Byron Katie. Some of you may, or most of you may know of Byron Katie. In 1986, when she was 43 years old with 3 children and an unhappy marriage to her second husband. It says she reportedly suffered from depression, agoraphobia, overeating, and addiction to codeine and alcohol. She called her insurance company for help and was referred to a place in Los Angeles, an inpatient treatment center. After 2 weeks at the house, she reportedly experienced an epiphany in her thinking, which created a way for her to challenge and lessen the harmful effects of long-held beliefs. She credited the epiphany, which became known as the work, for subsequent transformation. She says, "I discovered that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered. But when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And that this is true for every human being. Freedom is as simple as that." I found that suffering is optional. And her 4 questions that she puts forth in the work are, is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? We're talking about a belief. How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? And who would you be without that thought? This is why the importance of a Gnostic way of looking at spirituality is so important. Gnostic meaning allowing the wisdom within to come forth, to know. So think. H in the word think is it helpful? Helpful. I'm engaged in a helping profession. Many other people in this room are also. And we know that to help someone, there are certain criteria around that. For me, I always ask whether or not I'm coming from sympathy or empathy. Am I going to be helpful for someone if I'm sympathizing with how they're seeing themselves in the moment, which is a place of separation? Or am I empathizing with them as a spiritual being, having compassion for them as they're moving through something? It's a different way of being. And I remember when I was 22 years old, I had just gotten out of the Coast Guard. My parents invited me to move back home for a time. They said, "You can stay here as long as you want." After about a month, I moved out. Because in a way they were holding me in a place of sympathy, not strength. I had to claim my strength for myself and get out and to stand on my own 2 feet in the civilian world, which I did. So this is a very, very important piece. Is it helpful? And struggle sometimes is the great awakener. Our struggles bring forth the gold inside of us. We didn't know that we had the strength to do something until we did. So is it helpful? I in think. Is it important? Is what we are giving our attention and intention to important? And I was looking at the word important, and I saw the word import. And I sat with that for a while. how much stuff do we import into our consciousness on a day-to-day basis? And I thought, in one day, if you are dialed into social media and marketing and all the promotions that are available at this time, we are exposed to more material than a person 100 years ago would be exposed to in a month or in a whole year, in one day. So we have to look at, is it important what we are importing into our consciousness? And we even have a language around clearing the field. In fact, that's one of the mechanisms on the spiritual path. Is like, well, you got to clear your energy, cleanse your chakras, ground yourself, get back to center. Don't take on the patterns of other people. It's like we have to continually clear it out. Cut the cords of those people that are perhaps wanting our energy. So, and I put down here, ask ourselves, is the way of life I'm living now important? There was a man, a Reverend Duke Tufty. He has the church in Kansas City. It's a big church, probably 1,200 people. It seats 1,200 people. And one day he went home and his wife was away, and he was hungry and he didn't feel like cooking. So he orders a pizza. And he says, well, how long will it take to get the pizza here? And they said, well, 25 minutes. And he said, fair enough. So 25 minutes goes by, 35 minutes go by, 45 minutes go by, and he calls the pizza place, and where's my pizza? And it'll be there. He left like 20 minutes ago. I don't know what's going on. And so 55 minutes go by, and finally the guy comes to the door. Really long hair, just kind of, hippie kind of dude. And Duke Tufty opens the door and says, where have you been? He says, dude. He has the pizza in his hand. He goes, dude, is it really going to matter in a week whether or not it was important for you to have your pizza on time? Well, I would have said, I don't care about a week from now. I want it now. But anyway. So it was a reminder from him, and Duke Tufty used that in his service. Think. And is it necessary? What is necessary at this point for your unfoldment in your life experience? And I want to look at this from a level of, from levels. Levels. Because on one level, nothing in this world is really that important. We could reduce things down to say, well, I'm an energy being, and I'm one with everything, and it doesn't really matter, it's all an illusion, and that's one level. On another level, which is really where I feel is really important, in terms of it being necessary. You and I are souls, individualized souls, and that we're working with energy, we're working with patterns, we're working with beliefs, we're working with traditions, we're working with a discernment as to who we have been given on a silver plate, a definition of who we are supposed to be. But on a level of soul, We're really none of that. So what is it that we are? Underneath all of those constructs, all of those boxes. And I often like to say during a service like this that we're having a soul conversation. It's just as much of a letting go as it is a claiming of a truth. That's another level. On the level of body-mind, of personality, we can identify with that all that we choose to. Life experience after life experience, year after year, we can just be the me that I call myself. But the intention is to divinize or spiritualize the personality with the energy of the soul, the energy of the I am that I am, the words coming through the Christ teachings, I am, I and the Father are one. Those aren't just exclusive words for one particular person that we call Savior. Those words are a template for our experience. I and the Father are one is an actual truth, but we just don't know it yet on the level of body-mind. And that's why we're doing this work. That's why we're here. I would hope. Part of the reason, part of a level that we're here is to see our friends. Part of another level is to be entertained. But on another level, it's the level of soul. It's the level of, at least within my heart, to call forth that which you are as a spiritual being, so that you live and move and have your being in the truth of what it is that you are, and you are a free soul. As a friend of mine used to say, a free electron in God. You're not bound. You're not bound by the false appearances of the world. You're grounded. You're coming from your heart. Your energy systems are clear and spinning in the right direction. And you live from a place of knowing of what it is that you are. And when we have that, we can move into the K of life, of the word think. Is it kind? The Dalai Lama said that his religion is kindness. That kind of distills things down. In the Christ teachings, there is an ethic and intention that is kindness itself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's pretty simple to be kind. But it takes mindfulness. It takes right thinking. It is asking whether or not it's true. It is asking whether or not it's helpful, and on what level, from sympathy or empathy. It is asking whether or not it's important. It is asking whether or not it's necessary. All of these are pieces to come into a place of kindness and not being reactive through our own unhealed energies. So it all comes back to living from your heart. Simply living from the center of the core of being. This is the place of the energies of the earth, the lower centers, not lower in importance, but lower in vibration, coming up and meeting here, and the descending energies from the higher centers meeting here in a six-pointed star right here. This is the deeper meaning of the six-pointed star. Heaven and earth joining one. I and the Father are one. So, this week, your homecoming work, if you choose to accept it, is to be in the process of this acrostic. To think in terms of what it is that we are and how we want to show up as you. God bless. Thank you.